We've possibly all been there. You start your day at work, you have a look at your task list, and you get overwhelmed with negative feelings. What are these things? How did they arrive on my list? I don't know where to start with any of them. They all feel so awful and overwhelming, unpleasant, things we don't really want to do. I'm Dr. Richard McKinnon. I'm a chartered psychologist with over 20 years experience as a practitioner, helping people be their best selves at work. In this video, I want to explore the importance of gathering our work into one place and share with you a very simple methodology of getting specific and turning that mess on a post-it note into something actionable and a lot less overwhelming. The first thing I want to hammer home is a topic that comes up in my coaching practice all the time. When I'm helping my clients with their productivity, which is simply focusing on getting the right thing done in the right way at the right time, not necessarily producing more. But when I'm working with those clients, a topic that often comes up is the fact that they feel overwhelmed by what they put on their task list. And it's not always the fact that this list is too long. In fact, there are real benefits to getting all of those thoughts out of your mind and onto the page and doing a bit of a brain dump. That's great, but we need to do something with that brain dump to make it actionable. So it's not always the sheer volume of things. Sometimes it's the things themselves. Now, there are many psychological reasons why we might look at a task and not want to do it, but I want to focus on something really practical today. And that's the fact that sometimes we make a list of things that aren't actually tasks at all. They're projects. Now, the word project might imply formal project methodology and some specific software and those god-awful Gantt charts, but what I mean by projects, simply anything that's going to take you multiple steps to do. So think about a holiday. Imagine if the first thing on your task list tomorrow morning was sort out the summer holidays. That's not a task. That's a project that's made up of multiple tasks. Choose a destination, book the time off work, book the flights, the hotel, all of this stuff. And if we split it up from a project into multiple tasks, it feels a lot more doable. And of course it is more doable because we could cover up those tasks at different points in time. In fact, we could get really specific and cover them off in different contexts. Maybe some of the tasks can only be done when we're with someone else. Maybe some of them require us to be in a specific place or have access to some specific information. Maybe you have to access a work-based online system to book off your holidays. Maybe you need to talk to your partner about choosing the destination. That's probably advisable, to be honest. So breaking things down into manageable chunks seems like something everyone does anyway. But if you look at that list through the lens of actionability and specificity, you still might find some things that could be broken down even further into bite-sized chunks. And that can go a long way to reducing the sense of overwhelm that can come with some task lists. Another really important point is to gather all of those things into one place. Now, I talk a lot about the challenges of dealing with email. And one of the challenges that comes up all the time is the fact that people are trying to manage their workload by using their email inbox. I'm probably not the first person to say this to you, but that is the last place that you should be organizing your workload. Every time you open your email application to look at those emails that you flagged for action, new emails come in. You have no control over the volume of emails that come your way. It's highly likely that something will spark interest, will grab your focus, and before you know it, you're doing something else completely. And maybe you really want to focus on a given task, but you need some information about it, and you've got to go back to your email application, and we're back to square one. So actually being able to work off a dedicated, centralized list of things that need to be done without having to open your email application may seem simple. It is, and it's really impactful. So if we gather all of this stuff into one place, then we need to make sense of it. What is in this inbox? Not the email inbox, a different inbox. Now, it might be a list you've written by hand, it might be on a spreadsheet, it might be in a task management application. God knows there's enough of those out there. Regardless, we need to sort this out and turn it into something that you can take action on. It's a 5-point process that I use with my clients. I'd like to share with you now that is easy to remember, it's easy to do, and the results can be really, really helpful. I've touched on the first one, gather. Gather it all into one place. Try and avoid having reminders in one app, tasks written on a post-it note over there, something else in a notebook, something else. How will you know what to do and where it is? Make sure all of these things are in one place. I don't really care where that is, as long as you know where that is. Gather it all into one place. The second step is to review. We've talked about this already. Review what you've made a note of, written down or recorded in your app, and decide, is this actionable? Is this something I could do in one go? Or is this more like a project, like booking my summer holidays, writing a report, hiring a new member of the team, or project? If it's a project, it goes on a list of projects. And then all you need to do is identify the first step to move that forward. The next is to assign. What are we going to assign? Well, we're going to get specific about the task itself. We might need to assign it a due date. Maybe there's a deadline for this. Maybe we need to assign it a level of importance relative to the other things we're working on. Prioritization. Maybe, if we're lucky, we get to assign it to another person through delegation. Maybe, as I mentioned when we were talking about summer holidays and booking leave, there's a specific context or tag or label we want to put next to that. Maybe it's something that can only be done in the office. Maybe it's something that can only be done when we're at home or when we're talking to our manager. The next step should be obvious, but it's not always. One of the challenges with managing our tasks and projects is that we can turn it into a job itself. So we want to avoid taking too much time organizing this stuff, and we need to remember, do the tasks. Make the time for them. Make sure there's room on your schedule to do the things you've decided needed doing. And this might involve you looking a few weeks ahead in your calendar to block out time for these things. But it's a really common trap for us to fall into these days, particularly if you have a shared calendar. People drop things in all the time. So what we need to do is ensure that when we have priorities, we make space in our schedule to do those priorities. The alternative is we're working evenings and weekends just to keep afloat. Now, the final step in all of this is to evaluate. Have a look at how it's working for you. Maybe you could polish the skill of prioritizing things. Maybe you realize there are projects creeping in to the task list. Maybe you're realizing you're breaking things down to too much detail, and actually you could just work on it being manageable and actionable without being checklist after checklist. There's no perfect way of doing this. You might evaluate that you're spending too much time writing out lists again and again. Does that sound familiar? So maybe you choose to use a simple spreadsheet or even an application. There's no silver bullet, there's no magic potion. You need to keep an eye on how well this is working for you. And the only judge of that is you in your context. What's your job? Who do you work with? What are you required to do? And what do you like? Do you like to write? Do you prefer to type? It's down to you. But putting these principles into action turns an overwhelming maelstrom of reminders in your mind into something that you can actually take action on. And really importantly, feel a sense of accomplishment as you tick those boxes until it's done. I hope you found it useful. Check out the links below to see further resources on the general themes of productivity, but also prioritization and this particular methodology. GRADE. Grade. Easy to remember. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.